Hi children, hope you all are doing good in your house, and I'm so happy that I'm getting regular updates of what you are listening in the virtual class. The classes are doing so good because that shows how much interest you children are showing in each subject, because we get a regular updates of all the homeworks or any topics that is being discussed. So very happy with that, and definitely I want to tell you that the first chapter is over. So as of it's getting over, we should be continuously revising what is being done in the virtual class. Don't just stop with the class and getting into the next topic, because we are planning for our revision test just like our unit test also. So where you should be on your subjects regularly, making thorough revision with the subjects. Clear? So now the last class I have started with solubility. The lesson is solutions. So we have just seen homogeneous mixtures and all those stuffs, right? I hope you all remember that, children. Yes, can anybody? Vismaya, what type of solutions we were studying? Yes, we were looking at binary solutions. Binary solution means where we have two components in the solutions. So we were studying about binary solutions also. We were also finding about the different methods of concentration, finding the concentration of a solution. Around 7 methods we were studying. If you remember, Jitin, can you just recollect what are the methods we were studying? Yes, molarity, yes, molality, yes, Aishwarya, AK, mole fraction, Sandra, yes, mass percentage, volume percentage, yes, parts per million. You all right. So we were also doing some problems and I've given you some homework as well. So now we are going to see, you might be thinking where the teacher is, right? I know. See this, I thought why can't we do it in the lab? Because dealing with solutions, and if you are here right now, I would have brought you to my chemistry lab. But since you are at home, I want to make sure that you see the lab, how the things are being done in this chapter. Okay, so now we are getting into solubility. Now how to define solubility? We have been hearing this word soluble, insoluble, right? You also learn miscible, immiscible, like that sort. Now what is solubility? Solubility is the ability of the solute to dissolve. Solubility is the ability of the solute to dissolve. Now how can I relate this? Now let me just give you an example. Now this is our chemistry lab. Assume this chemistry lab can accommodate around 20 students at a time. So if 20 students can get into my lab, I have enough space for my children to sit comfortably or to stand and do your work without any disturbance. Now what happens if the number of children becomes more? Like say it becomes 22, 23, 25, 30. What happens? You become so congested. Each child will not have a proper space to do his own experiment, right? So what happens? The same thing is the solute. I can say the definition is the amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific amount of solvent at a specified temperature. I repeat, the amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific amount of solvent at a specified temperature. Why the specific amount of solvent is important there? Because when I said the lab can accommodate only 20 students, my lab is a solvent and the 20 students are my solute. So if I have to accommodate 30 or 40 children, what I should do? I should extend my lab a little bigger. The same thing happens if I increase the space for the solvent. If I add more solvent, so I can add more solute also. So the volume of the solvent plays a very important role when we want to know the amount of solute that is dissolved, right? The next factor is the specified temperature. As we have been learning that temperature plays a very important role. Am I not right, children? Yes, because we know if there is an increase in temperature, it becomes endothermic, or if it is a decrease in temperature, it becomes exothermic. So endothermic is absorption of heat. Definitely the solute particles will be absorbing the heat to carry out the reaction. And what happens in exothermic? Release of heat. The amount of energy or heat energy is being given out, evolved. So what happens there? The solubility may decrease, right? And we have been studying that whenever there is an increase in temperature, the solute will gain more energy to get dissolved in the solvent. So we know temperature plays a very important role. So what is the definition of solubility? Yes, Alina, can you repeat? The amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific amount of solvent at a specified temperature. Good. Now, when we were learning about this, the most important is like dissolves like. Now remember this, always like dissolves like. That happens in our class, right? When you come into the class, you go and sit with your best friend, right? You see whether your friend has come, then you go to her or him, right? You don't go to somebody whom you don't like. So that's why we say like dissolves like. Now what happens here is, I'll just show you. Now I have here, this is my water. Now I've taken water. We know water is a polar solvent. Now this polar solvent is there. Now if I want to put sodium chloride or common salt, if I am going to dissolve my common salt, what happens here? Let us see. Okay. Right. Now just given a small shake the solution. Now you can see here it has dissolved. It has become transparent. Right. Salt solution. So salt is a polar solute that has dissolved in the solution, that is in the solvent, that is water, which is a polar solvent. And what we have got here is, you can see a clear solution, children, here, right? So this is like dissolves like, which means polar solute dissolve in polar solvent. Say when I take example like sodium chloride, or when I take example like sugar, what happens? These get dissolved in water very easily. They don't remain settled at the bottom. Now what happens? The same thing if I am going to take with my non-polar solvent. I can take benzene, acetone, any non-polar solvent when I am going to take. What happens here? You can see, children, here. Can you see? This is getting settled at the bottom. The same salt does not get dissolved in the non-polar solvent. But if I am going to dissolve my naphthalene or anthracene in a non-polar solvent, it will get dissolved. So what does it mean, children? Polar solute dissolve in polar solvent, non-polar solute dissolve in non-polar solvent, which I will say like dissolves like. Now let me just give you a small example to become more dramatic. Like what we will do is, like you go to a concert. You go to a concert, a musical or a dance program, where you have of all ages sitting, right? You have a infant age, you have a toddler's age, you have teenage group, you have youth, you have middle age, and you have old age. Now what happens? Now when I get inside, or when you get inside, which group you would select? You would go to an infant and sit with the baby and cry, or you will go to a old age group and sit with them and see the concert. What we will do? We will be getting attracted to only our age group, right? So if I am a youth, I will get into youth group. If I am a teenager, I will get into my teenage group. So that is what happens here. Now this sodium chloride being a polar solute, it will get attracted only to a polar solvent where it can merge, where it can dissolve. It is miscible. It gets soluble completely, right? It gets mixed completely. You get a transparent solution. At the same time, when I take naphthalene, which is a non-polar solute, when it gets into my non-polar solvent only, it will dissolve. My sodium chloride, being a polar solute, does not like a non-polar solvent. It does not have any attraction. It can attract only the same group. So that is what happens. We say like dissolves like. Now the most important. Now I have here, say water. I'll fill some more here with water. Now what I am going to do in this is, I am going to add some salt. I'll add any salt here. We know to make a solution we need two important things. One is a solute, the other one is a solvent. Now I am going to take some solute, right, and put it in the solvent. Now what happens here? What happens here, children? You can see this is getting dissolved. Why I took white color is I'll take some other color for you to become more attractive, right? But what if I take pink color? Right, we'll see what happens now. I'll take some of my cobalt nitrate and dissolve. Children, can you see here now? Actually this is translucent, but this is called as dissolution. Any solute that is added to a solvent, we have some important process that are taking place. The first and foremost is dissolution. The second one comes the crystallization. The third is a saturated solution. These three steps happens continuously. Now these are my solutions where you can see dissolution happened. What do you mean by dissolution? Dissolution means the moment I added the solute into the solvent, the solute started interacting with the solvent, completely get dissolved. That is, it disappears. Right? This process we call it as dissolution. Now what is crystallization? Now assume the same situation I told you in the lab. We have 20 students to get accommodated. So at that time, after 20, there is a child who is coming inside and says, I want to stand with my friend. But what happens? The boy or girl who is already inside is not allowing. And what he does, they are going to have a small tug of war, they fight with each other, and the boy who is already in the lab will push the other one outside. No, this is not your place. The same thing happens in the solution. Now see here, I have taken copper sulfate. I have added some copper sulfate powder into it, crystals in the solution. And what happens, I have heated it. Now I have made it to cool. You can see at the sides, small crystals coming. Can you see, children? Small white bluish crystals are coming at the sides. Now why these crystals are coming? This process is called as crystallization. Now what is crystallization? When I said the boy who is coming from outside is an extra solute for the solute who is already inside the lab. So there will be a small collision taking place. So when the collision taking place, the solute which has come from outside will lose energy and it will get transformed into its solid state. The solute which want to get dissolved in the solvent try to get dissolved, but because of the collision between the solute particles, it will lose energy and get back into its solid state. That is, it crystallizes. You're able to understand, children? Any solid, when it gains energy, it gets merged, get dissolved in a solvent to become a liquid. The same solute, when it loses energy, it gets transformed into its solid state again. So this process we call it as crystallization. But here in copper sulfate, you got only very little crystals. But what happens is now, if after 2-3 days, you can see big crystals reappearing. Same thing happens with sugar in your house. You can try, children. Sugar, after you get dissolved in water, heat it, and then cool it, you will see sugar crystals forming out, right, at a particular temperature, right? That is what is called as crystallization. So we saw what is dissolution, that is simply getting dissolved in the solvent. We saw what is crystallization. Now there is something which we call it as saturated solution. What is saturated solution? Now assume I am going to take some solvent here and I am going to add, we'll add some colored salts so that you like it. Okay. Now what happens, I am going to add some potassium ferrocyanide. So the moment I add it, you can see this is getting mixed up, right? Now my solvent is actually cold. That's why you can see some of the solute not remaining undissolved, settling at the bottom. And we know anything, if I am going to heat it, what happens? It can dissolve easily. So what I am going to do is, I am heating and I am continuously stirring. So what happens here? Yes, almost my solute has dissolved. Yes. Can you see, children, now? There are no solutes here, right? It's a clear liquid. So when we studied in the first part that when there is an increase in temperature, the solubility will increase. Definitely there will be an increase in solubility. And when I cool down, what happens? That is in cold water or ice, when temperature decreases, the solubility will also decrease. Now what is saturated solution? I was telling you about that, right? Saturated solution is something where I form a solution that no more solute can be added into it. The solution is formed in such a way that the solvent amount we know, and there is a specific amount of solute is also added. And when I am going to add extra solute again, it will remain undissolved. That is, saturated solutions are those in which no more solute can be added. Like, I'll give an example to you. When you take water, when you start adding sugar, what happens? Sugar starts getting dissolved. But after some time, when you keep on adding sugar, you will see some of the sugar particles remain unsettled. They don't dissolve in water. Why this happens, children? This is the reason of forming a saturated solution. Now at this point, we say there is an equilibrium achieved. What is equilibrium? We have studied equilibrium, chemical equilibrium with Le Chatelier principle. What is Le Chatelier principle says? Any factor, that is temperature, pressure or concentration of the system is changed, the system will readjust itself to nullify the change that has happened. That is to retain a new equilibrium. That is what is Le Chatelier's principle. So when I say dissolution happened, crystallization happened. Now saturated solution is a stage, what we call it as equilibrium. A solute plus solvent will give me a solution. So what happens here? I can say the dissolution is happening in one way, crystallization is happening in the reverse direction. Such a stage we call it as equilibrium. At equilibrium, the system has to be maintained in such a way that the concentration of the solute is constant. It remains unchanged. So this is what is the most important thing which we are learning in solubility of a solid in a liquid. When I say there are two factors involved, temperature, as we already studied, if the system is an endothermic reaction, we know it always increases the solubility. And if it is going to be an exothermic reaction, it will decrease the solubility. And what about pressure? As we already know, solids, when you put it in a liquid, it becomes incompressible. Solids are highly incompressible. So pressure will not affect the system. The pressure has no effect on the solid solubility in a liquid. So these are the two important things that has come under solubility of solid in a liquid. Now we'll be learning about solubility of gas in a liquid. So we were seeing about solubility of solid in a liquid. That is, when a solid solute is dissolved in a liquid, there are chances of dissolution happening, crystallization happening, and also we saw saturated solution. And also we were seeing about the effect of temperature and pressure. Now this class we are going to study about solubility of gas in a liquid. Now what happens with solubility of gas in a liquid? The best and example which we cannot avoid in our life for solubility of gas in a liquid is, you can see oxygen or carbon dioxide dissolved in water. So what happens when oxygen is dissolved in water? We know that aquatic life is surviving. The most important, dissolved oxygen under the sea, right? That's the most brilliant example that we can relate with solubility of gas in a liquid. Since oxygen is a gas and that can dissolve in a liquid, you can see so many aquatic life surviving. So when we are studying about solubility of gas in a liquid, we have studied about effect of pressure and temperature also. So now in detail we are going to see what happens when there is a more pressure or when there is less pressure. Now you consider this as a vessel, and you can see the lower layer which has got a solution phase, and here these are my gas particles, gaseous particles. Now here I have a frictionless piston which is kept on the top, has got a small weight over that, and we know the gases, when they are entering into the liquid phase, the same way from the liquid phase you can see the gases again coming out. That is, the rate of gaseous particle entering into the system will be same as the rate of the particles coming out of the system or leaving the system. So if in that case, what will happen? We know there will be a dynamic equilibrium. When there is a dynamic equilibrium, what will happen? Whenever there is an equilibrium, the number of particles entering the system will be equal to the number of particles leaving the system. So as we saw here, there is a dynamic equilibrium between the particles entering and leaving the system. Now let us assume we are going to give more pressure, because here what is the case? The vapor pressure of the gaseous particle here will be equal to the pressure in the solution phase. But here, when I am going to give more pressure on the piston, if I am going to add some more weights on the piston, what is going to happen? The piston comes down slowly, so the volume will be becoming less. Here I have this much volume, but here now it has been reduced to half of it. So what happens? The number of particles which will be entering into the liquid phase will be more. That is, the rate of particles entering into the phase will be more. That shows that increase in pressure will increase the solubility of gas in a liquid. So whenever I am going to increase the pressure, the gas particles will be highly soluble in the liquid. That is what we have to understand. Rate of solubility of gas particles in a liquid will be more when we increase the pressure. So what happens here, when there were two scientists who were focusing on the solubility of gas in a liquid. They are Henry and Dalton. So what they did is they studied the solubility of gas and also the pressure of the gas. The same gas which is undergoing the process. So that time Henry, he posted the law. What was the law? At constant temperature, the solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to pressure of the gas. That is, he stated at constant temperature, being temperature constant, the solubility of the gas will be directly proportional to the pressure of the gas, which means whenever there is an increase in pressure, the solubility also increases. Whenever there is a decrease in pressure, the solubility will also decrease. The same thing was studied by Dalton. So you have studied about Dalton's law of partial pressure, right children? That is, the sum of the partial pressure will be equal to the total pressure of the gas. So the same person, what he did is, he was giving a concluding statement about the solubility of gas in a liquid. Now what came to his assumption was, why can't we consider mole fraction? Because we were studying mole fraction. What is mole fraction, children? Yes, can anybody tell me? Akash, what is mole fraction? Mole fraction is the number of moles of a solute divided by total number of moles of all the solute, all the components in the solution, right? So what happens here, he was comparing solubility with respect to mole fraction, right? It's the same. So what he said, the partial pressure of the gas will be directly proportional to the mole fraction. The partial pressure of the gas, that is of the solute in a liquid, will be directly proportional to its mole fraction. So when a graph was drawn between the mole fraction and the partial pressure, what did we get? We got a straight line, which means whenever there is an increase in the partial pressure or mole fraction, the partial pressure also increases. That is, they go in straight. When you increase the mole fraction, partial pressure increases. When you decrease the mole fraction, partial pressure decreases. So which means you got a straight slope here, which is called as a Henry's constant. So this was the law given by Dalton. He said partial pressure is directly proportional to mole fraction. To remove the proportionality constant, he designed a constant which we call it as KH, that is Henry's constant. So here P is the partial pressure, X is the mole fraction, and KH is the Henry's constant. Now from Henry's constant, what can we understand? For different values of Henry's constant for different gases will be helping us to find out the solubility of that particular gas in a liquid. Example, when you have a higher value of KH, when your Henry constant becomes high, the solubility of the gas will be very, very less. Because when I say P is equal to KH, KH is equal to P by X. So when you increase the Henry's constant value, there will be a decrease in the mole fraction, that is decrease in the solubility. And when you have a low Henry constant value, more or greater will be the solubility of the gas in a liquid. So this is what we studied with Henry and Dalton's law. After drawing the graph between partial pressure and mole fraction. Now when we have to study the effect of temperature, that plays a very important role, children, because we know temperature is a very important factor whenever we consider solubility of a particle, that is of any substance. Now when you consider this situation, an increase in temperature will decrease the solubility. I can just give you a good example. When you consider only aquatic species, they survive in cold environment, that is in cold water, chilled water. If the temperature becomes more, what happens? This aquatic species will start dying. That is, the life of the aquatic species will be in death, right? So that only shows that whenever you increase the temperature, the solubility of the gas will decrease. That's a very good example, children. Please remember this because these are frequently asked questions in the board exam. Effect of temperature and pressure, relating it to Henry's law and Dalton's law. Okay. Now, most important part of this chapter is Henry's law's application. We know what are applications. Applications nothing but the uses, right? Where all you can see the Henry's law has been applied. The first and foremost is the soft drinks, that is fizzy drinks. Now, whenever you open a Coke or Pepsi, you can see the carbon dioxide gas which is dissolved inside comes out. It oozes out, right? Now, what happens? Will you be interested to drink Coke or a Pepsi when it is not chilled? Like you kept the, will you like to buy a soft drinks when it is not kept in the refrigerator? Never. Why? Because that original taste will not be there. It will be just flattened, right? That's just because when there is an increase in temperature, that is when the drinks is kept out, there is an increase in temperature. It is neither cold now. What happens? It has become little warm. So what happens? The carbon dioxide which has to be soluble in the water is not soluble, no more, because solubility is less. That's why when you just open, you will not feel the immediate taste when you drink a soft drink. That's the best example for Henry's law. That is, whenever there is an increase in temperature, the solubility will decrease. The next one is a disease which we call it as Benz, B-E-N-D-S, not your car, Benz car. Okay. So what happens here is scuba divers, you know who are scuba divers, right? They go under the water. So we know the pressure at the surface is different. The atmospheric pressure at the surface of the sea water is different from the pressure when you go inside, that is under the sea water. See, I am a scuba diver. I used to carry oxygen cylinders at my back, right? I will be provided with all those provisions of breathing under the water. But what happens when I am at the surface level, I am comfortable because I am at the atmospheric pressure. So what happens? I have my oxygen gas which is getting dissolved in the liquid, that is in my blood. But what happens the moment when I get into the water? When I get into the water, under the sea water, the pressure of the water is actually on me, on my body. So what happens? There will be more pressure. There will be increase of pressure for me as a scuba diver. So what happens? There will be, as we studied here, the increase in pressure will increase the solubility. That is what Henry and Dalton have told us. So what happens when there is an increase in pressure? There will be more oxygen that has been dissolved in my blood. Right? I have more oxygen that has already dissolved in my blood. So once I finish my scuba diving, when I come to my surface level, what should happen? The pressure has almost come down, right? The pressure at the surface level is very less. So what should happen now? The oxygen or the gases which is dissolved in the blood gets released immediately all of a sudden. So when it just gets released immediately, there will be bubbles which will be in the blood vessels. The bubbles in the blood vessels of, that is with nitrogen and other gases in our blood. So that will cause a disease which we will be calling as vents. That's the worst situation, children. You should just think how the scuba divers are going. What is an alternate for that? Now to avoid such a situation, we used to mix helium, that is an inert gas, along with our oxygen cylinder. Why? Because we have studied that inert gases do not react chemically. They are inactive. So what happens? They suppress the solubility. So what happens? When you mix it with that, there are situations where you can avoid this disease which we call it as vents. Is that clear, children? And the last one is anoxia. Anoxia is a situation where I can say you will experience when you go to high altitudes. That is, especially people living at high altitudes or mountain climbers. We know when you go at the high level, what happens? The pressure is actually very less. So what should happen? Whenever there is a decrease in pressure, again, my Dalton and Henry's law, the solubility should come down. So what will happen? The oxygen at that level is very less. Solubility of oxygen in the blood will be very, very, very less. So at higher altitudes, what happens? Those people or the mountain climbers, they will feel weak, right? They'll just start fainting, they'll start dizzying. What happens? There is no sufficient oxygen for them in the blood. So that will create a situation which is called as anoxia, right? So these are the important applications of Henry's law, which you should always remember because it's a definite question for the board. What is state Henry's law? Write two of its application, or simply write Henry's law's application. So these are important questions that comes for our board exam, right, children? Now once we studied all this, we have been studying about solubility of solid in a liquid, solubility of gas in a liquid. Now the next important topic which we will be seeing in the next class is about vapor pressure, ideal, non-ideal solution, and the most important is Raoult's law. Right? So I want you all to be more energetic, more vibrant, because don't feel it is just simply solving problems and other things, children. These are all very, very basic things which we need to know, because as I've already told you, these are the things which we deal in our practical life. So it is just like how we connect it. Okay, so be on your work regularly. As you know, there's going to be unit test for us starting from our Wednesday. And two subjects have been given to you. So what I want you to do is read the lesson, okay, and ask your doubts again if you have any, because this exam is not just to check whether the child knows or not. It is a continuous evaluation. You know what is CE? We do this continuous evaluation for you for 10 marks or 20 marks. Now at this point of time, this is the only way of evaluating. Okay, it is not just to pinpoint a child that he is not studying or he is not doing. It is just to help you. That is, we can help you only through this way. So you should kindly cooperate with the teachers when we are asking questions. You stay in the place where there is a proper net connection, so that the questions and answers will go together. Let us not waste time, because every minute is very essential, very precious, children. So all the best for your unit test. Do well, because I know every one of you are very unique and you will do the best performance during this unit test. All the best, children. Stay home, stay safe. Until then, see you in the next class. Take care. Bye.